Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. It's really nice to see so many IGLTA members, even if it's virtual. We missed seeing you in Italy this year, but it's nice to see you at least here on Google Meet. We have almost 200 attendees signed up for today, from Canada to Argentina to the Seychelles to Slovenia and everything in between. And I would like to just say a special benvenuti speciali miei amici in Italia, as we were going to have our convention in Italy and Milan back in May. Of course, that had to be delayed from COVID. And I see we have a lot of Italians on the call, so that's why I wanted to give you a special shout out. We will be in Italy, in Milan, in 2022, in September, October timeframe. We're keeping next year's convention in Atlanta at the beautiful W Hotel in Midtown, right in the neighborhood. And we'll put some information in there. But Kristen, if you want to go ahead and start the recording, so everyone is aware this call is being recorded. You can turn off your video though if you don't want to be seen. And so, welcome to the IGLTA Member Connect series. Today, the LGBTQ plus luxury tourism segment. I think I know most everyone on the call, but for those that I don't know, my name's John Tanzella. I'm very proud to be the president and CEO for IGLTA, which is the International LGBTQ plus Travel Association. I'm going to just give a few housekeeping notes, real high-level background about IGLTA and the IGLTA Foundation. And then I'm going to pass it off to our moderator who will introduce our panelists. So a couple housekeeping. If you can mute your phones, mute your computers, mute your dogs, your doorbell with the Amazon deliveries, because it's distracting to hear background noise. If you're on your computer, if you swivel your cursor on the screen, you'll see three things on the bottom, one being a microphone. Just click that and it'll mute you. But you can always ask questions. We have a chat room in the top right. So if you have questions either about IGLTA, the foundation, the panelists, the moderator, just put them in there and we'll try to get to those. At the end, if there's time, the moderator will address the questions for the panel. And if you're wondering how to see the speaker on the screen, on this platform, if you go to the bottom right of your screen, you'll see three little dots. Click on that, and then you can option for change layout and click spotlight. And so what that'll do is whoever's speaking will appear on your screen. And again, if you have questions, just put them in the chat. So for those of you that don't know IGLTA, we are based here in South Florida, which is where I am right now. We have a small staff, but spread out over 7 countries: Brazil, South Africa, England, Spain, France, Colombia, and here in the United States. I work with an amazing team, a professional team, and super dedicated to the membership. So we're all on board here for the call today to support this call. We also have a lot of board members on this call, both from our association and the foundation. They are really, really supportive of you, the members, and making sure everyone is successful coming out of COVID. And they are in all different aspects of tourism and based all over the world. So welcome to our board as well. IGLTA is not really a new organization. We're an association that actually began in 1983 here in South Florida with 25 travel advisors and small gay guest house owners. And 37 years later, we still have travel advisors, I would say the best in the industry. We still have gay guest house owners, but we also have accommodations of all shapes, sizes, and star levels. We work with tourism boards, tour operators, airlines, cruise lines, travel writers and bloggers, media outlets. We even have a private jet company who's going to be on the panel today. So we've grown from 25 tourism professionals to over 5,000 in 82 countries. So we have a very large footprint around the world. For those of you that have either donated money or packages for our online auctions to raise money for the IGLTA Foundation, thank you, thank you, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. We established the foundation a few years ago to really support you, the members, with things that we felt would be helpful for your strategy and business for the LGBT segment. So 3 key things: research, leadership development, and education, like today. So thank you again for that. We are a nonprofit, and I would feel, I feel very strongly that as a nonprofit organization, we are really uniquely positioned in our space, because we work with everyone. We work with so many different renowned organizations all over the world, such as Virtuoso on the call today. We work with the Pacific Asia Travel Association based in Bangkok. Their president spoke at one of our conventions recently. We work with the European Tour Operator Association. I know many of you on the call from Europe are a member of that organization. Brastoa in Brazil, the Brazilian Tour Operator Association. ITB, ASTA here in the United States, Equal Africa, and the list goes on and on. We work with a lot of organizations, and we do this for 2 reasons. One, we want to have LGBT tourism at the table with these organizations, that it's a focus, but also for the members to establish more opportunities for business with all these other businesses around the world. And I also just want to mention that I'm really proud that we are the only LGBT organization that is a member of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which is based in Madrid. I know many of you that work for larger companies in tourism are also members of the UNWTO. We've done 2 research projects with them in the past, global projects. All of these research projects and data that we've done with the UN, as well as New York University and the European Travel Commission and many other organizations around the world, all of that data and information is free for you to download. Any IGLTA member can do that. So I think that's it for me. I'm going to now get this started. We have a really influential panel of leaders in their particular segments to speak to you today. So I'm going to hand it off to our moderator, who really doesn't need much of an introduction, because I doubt there's anyone on this call that does not know Albert Herrera, but he is the Senior Vice President of Global Partnership at Virtuoso, based in New York. But he's also a board member of IGLTA, and he's just so supportive of our organization and of you, the members, and of LGBT tourism, and of course, luxury tourism. So Albert, I'm going to hand it to you, and a big heartfelt thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you, John. Want to make sure the mic is on. Great.
Yes.
Thank you, John, and thank you, the whole IGLTA board, for having me today. Good morning from New York City, everyone. It's an honor to be with all of you today. And as John mentioned, I'm Albert Herrera. John always gives me all this praise, but really I don't know quite a few people. But I am the Senior Vice President of Partnerships at Virtuoso, which is a leading luxury travel network. And I'm also proud, as John mentioned, to be part of the board of IGLTA. I've been in luxury travel now more than I care to share on video, really. But I joined the IGLTA board in 2019, and it was a perfect bridge, the bridge of 2 communities that are near and dear to me: travel and LGBTQ+. That was the most important thing to me in terms of what we could do to sort of elevate this awareness in our industry. Moving forward, obviously I don't have to tell you, we're all in uncertain times, duh, right? Because as we were looking back, as we just flipped the calendar, not even a year ago, in 2019, Virtuoso's network of leading luxury travel advisors had an amazing $30 billion in global sales. 19 was a truly record year for a lot of us. Despite the success that we were all planning for the future, with modest expectations, we all knew what we were coming into, so to speak. We thought we did, right? From forecasting to a slowdown in the economy, and the list goes on. No one expected what would happen to us in terms of COVID-19, and how we were all prepared for the encounters we all have in 2020. So after almost a year of navigating this global crisis, production for Virtuoso preferred partners dropped to almost by 72%. That's a lot, but I think it's synonymous, it's significant as it is, because we're a large network, but also it's representative of all of you out there in the industry, big or small. Because Virtuoso is a microcosm of the luxury travel industry at large. What is happening here is happening across the world, and the implications are huge. Because leisure and hospitality make up 19% of US unemployment. Our industry is the one that has been hit the hardest. In New York City, which is my hometown, and the surrounding areas, leisure and hospitality sector alone declined by 43%. But as they say, tough times do not last, and the tough get stronger, and we're here to stay. So we're all here today, more than ever, just believing in this travel industry of ours. We know that our industry will recover, and we believe that it recovers in ways that it enriches human lives, and the ways that we can travel to create meaningful connections and help break down barriers for all of us. I'm very proud of the work that we do with IGLTA and all of you to move the world forward and how to make it a better, more inclusive place for all. So we're going to talk today about LGBTQ plus luxury tourism insights and how we move forward and raise this visibility in the luxury market. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our panelists. Jeff Gundvaldson is the co-owner and CEO of Brand G Vacations. Brand G is a tour operator focused on small ship cruises and land tours, focusing on the LGBTQ plus community. Since its inception, Brand G has grown from one program serving 150 guests in 2012 to more than 800 guests in 2019 across 12 programs. Kimberly, hello Jeff. Kimberly Wilson-Wetty, who is really no stranger to this network, to Virtuoso, joined Valerie Wilson Travel, which is one of Virtuoso's largest privately owned full-service travel management companies in the US. Today, she is co-owner and co-president and is responsible for managing the leisure division, relationships of this esteemed brand of strategy and marketing for Valerie Wilson Travel. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, everybody.
Liz Biden is the founder and CEO of the Royal Portfolio, which she personally designed, built, and decorated. She opened the Royal Malawan in South Africa's Greater Kruger National Park in 1998, which was to become her first of 4 properties in South Africa. Liz truly does set the standard in all forms of service, and she cares passionately about the guest experience and tirelessly in her efforts to create the best of luxury boutique hotels in the world. And footnote, don't forget to ask her about her new book, which was launched a few months ago. Right, Liz, there's a plug for you.
Thank you.
Hi, Liz.
Hello, everybody.
With over 30 years experience in the aviation sector, Stephanie Chung has been widely recognized as a trailblazer and was the first African-American president of a major private aviation company when she took the helm of Jet Suite. In 2020, Stephanie joined Wheels Up, and which is the leading brand in private aviation as the company's first chief growth officer. We can't wait to hear more about this as well. Welcome, Stephanie. Okay, now I open up the panelists. Luxury travel, by its definition, means personalized, curated experiences that allow plenty of breathing room, which makes the luxury travel market uniquely positioned to be a leader in creating safe experiences for travelers as we recover from the pandemic. So, Kimberly, how are you adapting to serving your clients, the travel community, in this new normal?
Thank you, Albert, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Always puts me on the spot when I'm the first one to answer a question, but I think about it, we are in the space of being able to give critical advocacy to our clients. They need it more than ever. This has been a challenging year for us in the industry, but for our clients. Many of them got stranded. They didn't know how to collect their refunds. They don't know when they're going to travel next. And we know travel is possible, but it's different, and they need to be walked through what that different looks like. So we've been really committed to over communicating. This is something that is so critical because there are millions of questions, And as we all know, the policies keep changing daily, sometimes twice a day. So understanding how can you support your client needs has really been something that is really critical to us. We are so proud of the work that we continue to do working with our suppliers. We are dedicated to the future of this industry, and that comes down to partnership. So I think we've started to see, kudos to the cruise lines who've gone out of their way to pay commission on sailings that didn't take place, hotels who refunded money, tour operators. We really looked at how can we best support the industry. And I think that's one of the things that we really need to be mindful of, that from the customer standpoint, the last thing you communicated with them is the thing that they're going to remember. So did you answer the phone with a smile? Did you answer your email with direct information and give them support? Did you really comfort their concerns and their needs? So I really go back to communication. And for many of us as advisors, we've been working for free for pretty much the last 9 months. We continue to service our clients and get them their refunds, even though we weren't getting paid in many cases. So I think that shows the dedication. So I think if you're a travel advisor on this call, your future is super bright, because I can't imagine a customer not working with a trusted travel advisor for future travel.
Thank you, Kimberly. The new normal. So Stephanie, could you help us out on this and give us some insights on what your feedback would be on this, please? Oh, Stephanie, I think you're on mute, Stephanie. Stephanie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I'm
Yes.
good? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. So, it's an interesting question, Albert, because when you think about the aviation side of the equation, it's been just like what all of you are experiencing. It's been an amazing, unbelievable year. And on the private aviation side, we're in a unique position because once upon a time, people thought of private aviation way back in the day as more of a luxurious type of product and something only available for the rich and the famous and the celebrities and so on and so forth. So over the years, I've watched that myth actually change. And so it's not just about luxury, then it moves to practical. And then Albert, to your point, with the COVID situation going on, it's really now moved to essential. And so what we're seeing is how we're really working with our clients and our members and our customers, and even, making sure that our employees are safe and well protected as well, is we've incorporated something that we called Safe Passage. And Safe Passage is a stringent health protocol program that we have in place. And it's really, there's a lot of layers to it, but just to give you an example, one of the things when we think about people flying on board an aircraft, and we all know there's the season that we're in where everybody's questioning that. And so for the private aviation side, we've seen an influx of new people coming into this space because they do still want to travel and get from point A to point B, but perhaps they're looking for a different alternative. So for Safe Passage for us, to give you an example, we make sure that the aircraft is not just cleaned, but it's cleaned, it's disinfected, it's sanitized between each and every trip. And so that's just one example, Albert, of some of the things that we're doing to make sure in this new norm, if you will, with the pandemic.
It's a lot. It's a lot to factor in because there was a panel I was on or heard. There was a good buzzword, some phrase where focusing on the hospitality versus being hospitals, right? Because obviously that's what we're all doing right now because everyone is so focused on the cleanliness and all that. But thank you on that, Stephanie. Liz, South Africa just opened a few weeks ago, so it's still in the early days, obviously, for you, the Royal Portfolio. How is your team preparing for the reopening in a way that will instill consumer confidence?
So, thank you, Albert. First of all, I'd just like to say South Africa is ideally placed to offer a perfect post-COVID tonic with a spectacular hotels, lots of space, lots of open spaces everywhere. And whether you're on safari or whether you're in the wine country or on our wonderful beaches, you have very few people with lots and lots of space. So like all the other hotels in our industry, we focused on reassuring our guests with safe places to visit. And of course, we have very stringent protocols in place, and we use a lot of, I mean, I don't know what it's doing to the community, but all our spraying and our wiping of hands and services and masks and gloves that have to get thrown away all the time. But we're all, trying our very best. We only opened the silo a week ago, and it's been so fantastic to see people pouring in and smiling faces. And we've had our first American guests, which we always value hugely. And actually, our portfolio relies on American guests. And then our other local hotels, Birkenhead House and La Residence, they've been open since July. And we've been trying to keep our staff alive by offering locals a chance to stay in our places, in our hotels, because a lot of them find it too expensive, I think. But we've had a lovely time growing local community support. And I mean, obviously, we can't wait for our overseas clients to start pouring in. The airports are now open, and we do have quite a few flights coming in. And they say that flying is very safe for everybody. So we're hoping that very soon we're going to get back to a more normal situation. And just to mention, in the last 9 months, we've all been working terribly hard to educate our staff. We have been doing training programs every day. And I'm very pleased to say that our 600 staff are still intact. 1 or 2 have left because of personal reasons. Or moved off elsewhere, but otherwise everybody else is still on board, and we are passionate about travel, our industry, and our staff.
Well, thank you, Liz. And you've always been such a great supporter of your local community, and thank you for all that you've done and continue to do. Jeff, here's a question for you. And obviously, what does it mean when we create safe spaces now, particularly when speaking about LGBTQ plus travelers who want to get further off the beaten path, right? Especially in the tour side. Could you help us?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone from Minneapolis. And first, I'd like to say thank you to John and Albert and everyone at IGLTA for hosting the panel. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in. I see lots of familiar names out there, so it's good to see you all online. And looking forward to seeing you all again in person soon, I hope. So back to the question of what it means to create safe spaces for the LGBTQ plus traveler. We at Brandy Vacations and our other tour operators who are in the same business in LGBT luxury travel, we seek out destination management companies, as well as local hotels, cruise lines, and other attractions who cater specifically to our community. So we ensure that they have the best interest and safety of our particular guests in mind as they help us develop our itineraries. So many of our guests are well-traveled and are now ready to experience some of the more off the beaten path destinations. And oftentimes those places aren't necessarily the most gay-friendly of the destinations out there. But working with local companies who know our market helps us to choose the right guides, hotel properties, cruise lines, and so on that not only want to cater to the LGBT market, but actually make the effort to get to know the specific needs of our travelers. They help us to ensure that they and their staff are well trained and knowledgeable about our community and are sensitive to their unique needs. This additional training and focus helps us to ensure that the right services are procured, and that helps create the safest spaces possible for our travelers, even in destinations that may not be the most gay-friendly or the most well-versed in serving the LGBT market. Also, I think that group travel, which is our focus and the focus of our competitors, is by nature safer than traveling as an individual or couple. As they say, there is safety in numbers. And finally, our network of providers have a vested interest in the safety and enjoyment of our guests to ensure our future business. And our livelihood at Brand G also depends on the safety and enjoyment of our guests. So we both will do everything in our power to ensure their safety and enjoyment.
Thank you. All right, let's move along. Let's move into visibility in the luxury market, both internally and externally. Because although gay travelers are often associated with luxury travel, there are still a limited number of high-end brands actively promoting LGBTQ plus visibility. So let's talk about some of your brand initiatives. Stephanie, you have a particular focus on DEI in your role. So what is Wheels Up doing to elevate the LGBTQ plus voices within the brand and externally?
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. So a couple of things in regards to, you know, the DI space, and specifically the LGBTQ plus. You know, at Wheels Up, there's very specific things that we're focused in on in our department. In our department, we call it the growth department. So there's three things in particular. One, we want to make sure that we grow our client base to be much more inclusive. So both the LGBTQ plus community as well as the BIPOC community and things of that nature. The second thing is we don't want to just, you know, grab and pull in more revenue from those communities and vertical markets, but we also want to make sure that we are creating within our space a opportunity for people if they want to work in the private aviation space. So it's also making sure that we are building a pipeline of inclusive and, you know, employees that come from the different vertical markets that I just mentioned. And then the third thing is, and equally as important, is making sure that we're giving back to the different social causes that are important to the groups and the focus that they have, right? So, you know, social awareness, social causes as a give back, making sure that our employee base, not just the current one that we have in place, but the future one, you know, within our industry and the pipeline is growing. And then, of course, making sure that we are, you know, inclusive and building our client and customer base. But, you know, specifically when you think about one of the things that we've done that we're super proud of is as simple as joining IGLTA. We're the first private aviation company in history to ever join and team up with the IGLTA brand. And the reason why we did it is we knew how important this brand and this organization is to the LGBTQ plus community. And so we wanted to boldly proclaim that, you know, our company we're very committed and we're an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. But something I'm super proud of, and it's something that we just did last week, so we're coming fresh off of this high, if you will, is, you know, we had the first ever photo shoot, and that was dedicated to the LGBTQ plus. And when you look at, you know, let's face it, and I'm a person from, you know, a different community as well. So I know what it's like when you think of just something as simple as images and imagery. And do you see yourself, you know, portrayed in the different marketing material and things of that nature for any brand? And so we're really proud of what we've been able to do. And so you'll see a lot more coming from us in 2021, but I just wanted to share that only because we're so excited about it. So that's one way that we are elevating both within our own organization, within our own industry, and of course, within externally to support and ally the community.
Wow. Well, listen, I wanted to say applause to everyone, but I didn't want to interrupt everyone here. Thank you for being the first private aviation company to join the IGLTA. Good for you all. That's what we want to hear.
Thank you.
Liz.
Thank you.
Liz, Royal Portfolio has a values card. Would you care to tell us briefly about this and what it is and how it all came to be and how do you use it daily?
So we have a cult-like culture, which is very important to us in running our business. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. And we've got an executive coach who happens to be my brother. And for 20 years, he screams and shouts at everyone if they don't know their little card off by heart. So it's our purpose statement and it's our values, and they have to carry it in their pocket and they have to be able to recite everything. Basically, we want to give our guests a complete experience and a perfect stay. And our key values include mutual respect and integrity and trust. And all our staff have to work hard at that. And I think during these last 9 months, it's kept everybody together and everybody going. And they love to be all inclusive And of course, our guests are the most important thing in our business. And so we all have to work together to give them their perfect stay. And we can't do this without the buy-in of all our staff. So to us, our buy-in culture is the most important thing that we have. It's fine to have a beautiful hotel and to be in beautiful location, but if you don't have that feeling and that passion inside you, you know, a lot goes missing. And when I speak to guests who've stayed with us, they always say to us, oh, we feel as if we were in our own home and we feel as if we were welcomed. And that's what's so important to us, that everybody, no matter what color they are, no matter what they believe in, everybody is the same to us and everybody's welcome.
Thank you, Liz. Great insight. Kimberly, how did LGBTQ plus inclusion become a key part of the Valerie Wilson travel DNA?
Love the question. So it's always been a part of who we are. I think back to when my mom started the agency almost 40 years ago. She is one of those people who believes, you know, there is no division between people. We are all created equal and everybody needs to be treated with love and respect and empathy. And as a woman who broke barriers earlier in her career, she said, you know, we need to look at all segments of the market and all kinds of people because we are just people. And so we are so proud of a new partnership that we just launched with Men's Vows. And when we looked at this partnership, it was a true magic fit because here's an organization committed to men getting married. And when you think about the magic of planning the wedding, so much of that involves travel, including the ceremony, destination, weddings, the honeymoon, all parts of it. And so when we went to figure out how could we align our two companies, we really looked at that travel is something that is a part of all of our lives, and your wedding is
Oops.
with Men's Vows, and they have a travel section right on their website committed to explaining all kinds of travel that is open to this segment. We are bridging that gap and further educating the power of why you should work with a travel advisor, the advantages of what it means to work with somebody who gives you that you're looking for. And you know, I think I'm going to have to call Stephanie and ask for some of her photographs because that's actually been one of our greatest frustrations when we look at this segment. There is not enough representation with photographs and imagery that truly work throughout the platform on how we promote and market this destination. So kudos to Wheels Up for doing that. But we are very proud to be a part of working with Men's Vows and being a standing member of the IGLTA. So thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Jeff, as global acceptance grows, so why is LGBTQ plus travel still so important?
It's an excellent question, Albert. But just to back up a little bit to Stephanie's point and what Kimberly was just talking about you know, LGBT community being able to see themselves in marketing, I do think that's very important. And obviously for us, it's the core of our business. So it's easy to do, but I am proud to say that at Brand G, you know, rather than using models, we actually use our actual guests and about 95% of the imagery, you know, that we use to promote our brand and our trips. And I think our guests not only really love to see themselves in it, but I think it's important for them to see the community represented in all ways throughout our marketing. So now back to your question about why LGBTQ travel is still so important as global acceptance of our community grows. It's in my personal experience that many people, you know, who fall within the luxury travel segment in our community are of a certain age where the gay community was almost an integral part of their lives when they were a bit younger. You know, in fact, in many cases, it was essential to travel within the bubble of safety that LGBTQ travel provided, especially if they wanted to be out and proud during their vacation. So even as global acceptance of our community has grown, many of the people in our community, in our demographics, still feel most comfortable traveling within their community. As I often say to people who ask what I like most about our trips, it's that instant feeling of community and familiarity right from the start of the vacation. while I may not have an instant bond with everyone, during the entire trip, at least I know that they will all accept me, accept my husband, and most importantly, our guests for who we are. There's never those awkward moments of coming out at the dinner table, never really sure about how our table mates will accept us for who we are, or having to deal with those well-intentioned but annoying questions about our relationship and lifestyle. I've been in way too many of those situations on a quote-unquote straight trip, so it's nice to have that familiarity with your table mates. So as mentioned before, there's also the safety issue, especially in places that are unfamiliar where we might be uncertain about local attitudes and acceptance. We as a tour operator make it our business to know the destinations and advise our guests accordingly, and we take steps to, throughout the trip to keep them safe. And then finally, as I hear from many of our guests, and I can also clearly see it throughout the trips, many of them greatly miss that sense of community that once was such an important part of their lives. You can almost literally see on their faces the transformation that takes place once the trip starts, and they feel that comfort level of being around like-minded people. So I do think it's very important, even as we're accepted, to have that community there to travel with.
Okay, thank you. Now let's talk about destination and trends, but also before that, I'm actually looking at the counter here, and thank you to all of you who are dialed in and are sticking with us. We all know you're all part of many Zoom calls, Teams calls, and all that, but it is incredible that we have what you call the staying factor. So thank you for being part of this and sticking with us through the end of this call. So let's talk about destinations and trends. A theme that Virtuoso has always used in its marketing throughout the year is to dream today, travel tomorrow. After almost a year at home, there is tremendous pent-up demand, or I call it pent-up emotion for travel, right? It's just in us. We can't wait. So obviously, COVID-19 has highlighted that one thing you cannot replace is time, and it has led to the spirit of Carpe Diem, as well as interest in group travel to create memories and celebrate milestones with loved ones. We will see a conscious comeback. Travelers are more aware than ever of the global ecosystem and its place, and are more inclined to seek out destinations and companies that align with their values. Immediately, as we all know, and we've seen it, we read about it, immediate recovery is close to home destinations. But there is strong interest in international travel within the next 2 years. And of course, if you heard this story, they're going to South Africa already. As many people can do as what they can do. One of the fun parts of this business is identifying travel trends and noting which destinations captures travelers' imaginations in their hearts. So we had our Virtuoso Wanderlist, which we launched, the top dreaming destinations a few months ago, and travelers then selected Japan, France, Australia, Italy, and the #1 destination was South Africa. So Liz, this obviously was great news for you. So how is South Africa uniquely positioned to welcome LGBTQ+ travelers back?
Sorry, that was wonderful news for us in South Africa. So thank you all very much. Do you know that we have one of the lowest mortality rates, and our hospitals are not overrun, and we have the best private healthcare systems in the world we can compare to anybody. We have very diverse travel experiences, lots of space, and we have very diverse people. You know, we have the 11 official languages, which just is an explanation how we are. And we have also a very liberal constitution. We actually were also the first country to legalize gay marriages. So I think after all our discrimination in 1994, we formed the fairest constitution in the world. And being the Rainbow Nation, anybody and everybody is treated equally. And I think Cape Town, Sydney, and San Francisco are known as the gay capitals of the world. And lots of our staff as well are gay. I always find they make the best managers because they notice things more than straight people do. And so I love to employ them. And they also become wonderful friends. And so we have zero tolerance to any discrimination of any kind. And we just, don't put up with anything. We had one guest being rude to one of the staff members, and we laid a charge against him. And he had to come the next day to apologize. And then, of course, we dropped all the charges. So it works both ways for us. If the guests discriminate against our staff or our staff against anybody, it's really hits us very hard.
Well, thank you, Liz. So let's start with you, Jeff. What destinations will be in demand for LGBT plus travelers, both short-term and longer term? And if there are any other travel trends that are emerging from this?
Sure. Well, I guess the good news is that we're hearing from all of our travelers that there's a real pent-up demand, to travel. So I know that once the time is right, I think it's going to be a banner year for whatever point we can get started in 2021 and beyond. So that is the good news, I think, for the travel industry and those of us that work in it. So I do think that we're going to start out in the short term, and what I'm hearing from a lot of our guests, it's going to be the more well-developed countries that have the good healthcare systems and public safety systems and protocols in place, to control the virus. Speaking of, as Liz say, in places like South Africa that have done well to control the virus. But I also think there's going to be another trend in travel in the near term, and that is for smaller, more intimate options that I think guests will feel better about from safety in terms of the virus. I think that some of the other destinations that might be doing well in the near term, just as Liz said, in terms of South Africa, having done well controlling the virus, places like New Zealand and Australia, and maybe places, things such as African safaris, speaking of South Africa, yachts in the Galapagos, small boats in the Peruvian Amazon. So I think, the commonality among a lot of those will be, the small, more intimate nature, which will hopefully keep guests safer, and there'll be tighter protocols and things like that. So further out, maybe beyond into the mid part of 2022, I can see guests returning to some of those more far-flung and exotic destinations. But I still think that the trend of the small and intimate trips will probably remain in place for another year or so. And I think that really bodes well for us in the luxury travel market, focus on those types of trips anyway. So I think that we have a window of opportunity to develop trips to more of the bucket list destinations such as Mongolia, Antarctica, India, Vietnam and Cambodia, South Africa, places such as that. But I do think that in planning those trips, planning for the safety and the intimacy of the trips so that our guests do feel like they're well taken care of and are being kept safe throughout those will help to attract them back to travel, I think.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Kimberly, give me some advice, please. Help me. Where do I go?
So such a great question. And what I'm struck with is I look at this call and we are all different. How do we define luxury for ourselves? How do we define our comfort level and confidence of travel? So I think for each of us and our clients, where they want to go is a very personal experience. They might be closer to home. They might be willing to go farther away. And so it's understanding that customer to better understand what is the right trend for them and asking those pointed questions about what is your confidence level of traveling right now. So we're really using real testimonies from, especially within this segment of the audience, of where are you going, where do you feel comfortable, and why. Explaining what it feels like to travel now, because then that becomes real. But I think, I agree with Jeff. I mean, there's going to be a lot of this smaller. I think villas and homes are going to do remarkably well. I think the wedding market, think about how many weddings got postponed or deferred in 2020. You're still going to want to get married. I mean, that was almost a bubble-proofed segment of this market. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that coming back. I think this commitment to family Many of us haven't seen our loved ones in many, many months. So this idea of traveling with your family, the other trend that I'm seeing is your extended pod travel. So in your own network, in your community right now, you're probably socializing with a few friends, and you trust them, you feel confident with their behavior. I think those pods are going to start to travel together because they're already comfortable socializing and doing daily activity. So that's going to branch out, and they're going to say, okay, now let's go travel together in the next couple months. So that's a little bit of what I'm seeing. But I've joked for the last 9 months, my crystal ball is really, really cloudy. So I can't promise you that anything I just said is actually going to come to fruition, but I hope we're right.
Wow. So you mean I should be planning my wedding now with you?
It's about time, right?
Well, great insight. Thank you for that. All right, Stephanie, we know there's a lot of potential and growth in the space that you sit in for the LGBT travel. So how do you create new opportunities, especially in this market environment that we're all in right now?
Yeah, so it's funny, our research has shown that there's about $100 billion. So the LGBTQ plus community, the last set of numbers that I saw, spent about $100 billion in travel just in the US in 2019. So those are big numbers, right? And how do you create the opportunities? For us at Wills Up, what we're doing is the very first thing is listen and learn. We have people that are part of the community that are already our customers. So we want to listen and learn from them. We also have our employee base that has a substantial amount of people in the LGBTQ plus community. So we want to listen and learn from them as well. And then the goal is to go where, they are, right? Wills Up is known for one of our claims to fame, if you will, is we're really known for our events. So we call our Wills Up events Wills Down. So we do a lot with the Super Bowl, we do a lot with the Masters, we do a lot with Art Basel. So, events is really our superpower, if you will. But one of the things that we're doing when we think about specifically the LGBTQ plus community is to go where they are, not assume that everybody in the community is going to really enjoy going to the Masters or the Super Bowl. They may. But what you're going to do is you're going to start to see Wills Up in the areas that we know for sure the community is also at as well. So you may see us at, Gay Ski Weekend. You may see us in different pride activities. And so it's important, to Kimberly's point, everybody's special and unique, and they have their what is important to them. And our goal is to make sure that we're going to where they are. We're going to what they deem as important versus, assuming that what we have done traditionally is going to be something that is of interest to them as well. So those are some of the things that we'll be doing, Albert.
Wow, I love that. Here's the tagline for you. Go where they are.
Yeah.
Again, that's words of advice for everyone in this call. Go where they are. Well, right now it's within reason but that's great. I love that, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We actually have a few minutes. So for Q&A, if we have, Luann, are there any questions that you'd like for the panelists?
Hi, everyone. We do have a couple of questions for the group. This is an open question, so any of you can answer this. Maria from Tourism Monaco, and also an IGLTA board member, has asked, how do you avoid the trap of pink washing, being perceived as showing support just for marketing purposes? Anyone?
Thank you, Maria. That's a very good question. Who would like to take a stab at that?
Well, I think, I'll address, as the panelists may be thinking, but we get asked that question quite a bit. And I think a lot of what the panelists were saying today is how you do avoid pink washing, because so often we will see companies around the world that all of a sudden in June and Pride Month, they're super gay friendly and gay welcoming, and then they're gone. I think, strategically, everyone on this panel today are people who are doing things year round. And I think that's really important. Don't just dip your foot in June. And a couple of them mentioned also using authentic imagery. Wheels Up was in Miami this week doing just that. So I think, and of course, Jeff mentioned he uses his clients. So That's very authentic.
You know, I want to add on to that as well. Thank you, Maria, for this great question. It's obviously a very we need to make sure, like, for example, a company like Virtuoso, it's part of our, for lack of a better, in our DNA. It's about education in our case. We're making sure that it's part of the curriculum that we have, not just for our staff, but for our advisors as well. It's part. When we do have our events, live events, we used to have trainings as well to make sure that we would sort of, for lack of a better word, educate, teach the advisors, teach the staff. Recently, we also had just another internal meeting of Virtuoso staff about diversity, inclusion, all these things that are so important as we sort of evolve our industry, our company as well. And it's part of our daily practices as well. So I think it's like what Liz has with her card. It's also, we're instilling this in the culture of what we do. And I think that's what it is making sure that every message that we have is authentic and deliver that consistently as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to take a crack at that question as well. So, you know, from a Wheels Up perspective and private aviation perspective, you know, for us, it was important, you know, we created an entire department focused in on diversity and inclusion. So not just for LGBTQ plus, but also, you know, people of color, female market, you know, so on and so forth, and other groups as well. But I think that, you know, John, you make a really interesting point. And I know for us, I'll give you an example. We have a program called Wheels Up Cares. And Wheels Up Cares are some of the different initiatives that we have from our philanthropic work. And I'll give you an example, right? So Feeding America is a organization that we team up with. And originally when we first started working with them, our goal was to raise, you know, 10 million meals, because we know 2020 has been a crazy year. And we also know that, you know, it's estimated that 54 million people in the US will face hunger just in 2020 alone. So what we did is we teamed up with Feeding America. We surpassed our goal. So instead of raising 10 million meals, we're now at 50 million meals. But to John's point, we also painted a plane orange. And this is important. Painting an asset that's worth millions of dollars is not an easy feat. And that just shows our commitment.
Wow.
So we painted the plane orange, and that it's important because now every single time that plane, it's incorporated into our fleet. So it's you know, flying our passengers and our customers, but it's also touching down in various cities every single day. So we didn't just do it during the month of September when it's, you know, hunger month. We have that plane hitting down every single day, 365 days a year, so that we can bring awareness to that particular initiative. And so we see ourselves, whenever we do something, at least on the Wheels Up side, we're all in. And that's no different than what we're doing with the LGBTQ plus community. And so you'll start to see, you know, I don't know whether we're going to paint a plane or things of that nature, but there's a lot of things that we have in our strategic plan coming down the pike for 2021 that we're proud of, and I'm sure that you'll be proud of as well.
Thank you, Stephanie. Luann, any other questions?
Paul Henney, who is a lovely journalist and good friend to IGLTA, he's covered us many times with Travel Pulse and various outlets, says vaccinations will be skewed toward a handful of wealthy countries at first. Given that, do you foresee a situation in 2021 to 2023 where certain international destinations will be favored over others simply based on their continuing struggles with the virus?
Wow. I can make a stab at that because that's what we do on behalf of the industry is we seek the feedback and all that. Well, there's a lot of uncertainty with this based on, is there going to be an inoculation card that will certain, I mean, there was word, for example, that Qantas will require every passenger has to be vaccinated before they board their flights, right? So no one knows, is it the Clear app that's going to be tracking you? There's many different, so it's a difficult one being this early in its stage. And that's how we're all trying to maneuver what makes sense. I know there was a travel corridor that was launched just yesterday between JFK and Fiumicino, right? In terms of getting that. So all this is all in the short term. I'd like to say we're planning for in the next 6 months, but I think we're looking at it from a month-to-month perspective. Kimberly, would you like to feed based on what your clients are asking and what you foresee this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's still in the wild, wild west. You know, when we think about the fact that the first vaccination was just, you know, administered 2 days ago.
Yes.
And that poor woman has more press than she ever thought she'd ever have in her life, being the first woman to get it.
And they're nurse too. But yeah.
And none of us know how it's going to be rolled out. There are a lot of people who are unsure they even want to get the vaccination. So I think we're going to start to look at, it's going to be another one of those protocols when we look at when you're planning on visiting a country, what is required. I wouldn't be surprised if this is just going to be an extension of your health card, that it's going to be one of those things that if you want to travel someplace, you're going to have to prove that you've either been vaccinated or you have the antibodies. And, you know, who's to say what the next virus we might be dealing with in the future. So I think no differently than 9/11, where the airlines really reshaped aviation safety. I mean, remember those days when we used to just get to the airport and walk straight to the gate with your big bottle of water and your everyone back. So health, all cruise lines, the airlines, the hotel companies, the tour companies, they're reinventing what the new protocol is going to be on health safety, which I think is going to be better for all of us. And I'd love just to add, because I'm so struck by what Stephanie's saying and like her commitment of being all in. We know this has been an exceptionally hard 9 months, but there's so many silver linings too. I think if there's one thing that this pause in our life, given all this ability to have greater love and empathy and understanding, because the things that we took for granted, many of those things changed. And I just pray that there's been a door that opens to more inclusion and less, you know, stereotypes and segregation. We need more togetherness than ever before. And I just think conversations like this inspire me. So thank you for having me on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're at that hour. So I'd like to give a few words, if I may, just to close this out. And again, to all of you who've dialed in and joined us, we know there's a barrage of this out there. But for you to be here with us and invest an hour of your time, we are extremely grateful. Thank you for becoming more involved and more engaged. Log in to the IGLTA site to find out more about the great work that the team does, that we all do together. And if you're not a member, what's keeping you back? Become a member, please. We would love that. We need your support. So with that said, together, we are creating the kind of world that we want to live in. And I can't thank you all enough personally. It is that season, time of year. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, or wherever you may be. Be safe. And I can't wait to see you all in person very, very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Was incredible. Thank you.
Thank you all.